Why, hello to anybody who generally pops in during the close that a little bit. Who generally pops in during my Thursday evening streams. You'll notice I'm at the bench, not in the other room. Probably partly because we've got guests here today, and I want to not disturb them since I'll be sitting upstairs. And if I go on a rant, I don't want to overdo the rant, at least not to disturb people to that degree. So anyway, but I am going to be working on the Dunbine like I was doing last week. I'm a little further along, but we'll begin just a wee bit. This is such a good model. I'm not gonna lie, it's a really good model, and it looks good too. So, anyway, you know the game. It's it's like I can't even read my shirt. What the hell? I know that it's like this camera's great, but this camera has a tendency to lose focus too. Anyway, okay, let's pop this out of here, plug it in. Okay, anyway, I'll begin a little bit here, just kind of be a little light on some stuff. It's let's be honest, things are getting, I'm not sure if I'm just getting inured to it. Things just continue to get worse and worse and worse. And I think it's the death by 1,000 cuts. I think we're starting to feel a lot more of those cuts every week. It's not like a ton of them, but it's just like there's just enough of them that just are creating all that pain and consternation. And it's every week it just feels like we're just pushing that boundary just a little bit more into that level of, do people just not see the level of destruction that's there, or are we just becoming, like I said, inured to it? Like I'm becoming numb to some of it, and are people who are less tolerant than I am about it, it's just like I just tuned right out. Don't know. But I'm wondering at what point there will be enough people kind of just saying, this is we have to stop this, this level of destruction that's going on. I mean, ultimately, as I said last week, I do believe that whatever ends up happening, whether it's what I think is going to happen or whatever anybody else thinks is going to happen, things are going to happen, and history will be written at some point, and that history is going to determine, that they'll be looking back at this time and look at this time and just say, this is the good, the bad, the ugly that happened. Right now, I am very hard pressed to believe that we are going to see anything except ugly. History is not going to write this time frame, this part of our American history, as a time when we were at our best. I just don't see it. Wow, lots of little. Wow. I got to build 6 little toe parts. Okay. Like I said, I just don't foresee that we're going to be seeing a time when we're going to be having a good write-up of this time. I do think that we're going to have a time that's going to be looked upon as, this is probably one of the worst times in American history. And I don't say that lightly. I said I've studied enough, not a ton, but enough American history to see, some of the difficulties that we've gone through. And I hope we can get through it. I'm let's put it this way. I'm confident we will get through it. Oops. Okay, so now I've lost the part. That's okay, because that happens all the time. I think we will get through it. I just don't think that history is going to be. I'm just going to check here. I might check the floor a little bit. I don't think history is going to be kind to this time. He's not going to be kind to this time. I'll use an example of just some of the. I think we're being deceived. And the American population, the American populace, is basically just asleep to a lot of it. I don't think that they're seeing what's going on. And then what you have is you have a president that continues to scream, "Oh, I've got a mandate, I've got a mandate." And I think that mandate comment is so fallacious. And I'll use the example of. Sorry, guys, just trying to get that piece off. And I'll use an example. So you're in a neighborhood, and you have a neighbor, pretty ballsy guy, brash guy, and he says to you, "Hey, can I come over and grab a beer out of your fridge?" Sure. And then he comes over, and he's not just grabbing a beer; he's grabbing the entire 6-pack. He's raiding your fridge. He's taking a shit in your living room. He's using your pool. He invites people over. He does all this stuff. And you go to him and you say, "Well, hold it a second. That's how I just said you can come over and have a beer." "Well, no, you said I can come over and have a beer. So I'm just, I've got a mandate from you that I can come over and do all this stuff." And you're like, "No, I didn't tell you could do that." "Well, you said I can come over and grab and have a beer. So I'm going to, what's the problem?" And that's kind of how I feel like we're currently being treated. That when I hear, well, the president has a mandate to do these things, I'm thinking he had a mandate to make changes. He didn't have a mandate to break laws. He didn't have a mandate to go above and beyond. I think if people felt honestly that, our veterans were going to lose jobs, that that the VA was going to be gutted, that our social, our safety net, through Medicare, Medicaid, all that stuff was going to be gutted. I think if people understood all this stuff, that our soft power was being destroyed. I know that, USAID doesn't seem to be something that's resonating with a lot of people. But I think, once again, if you don't go out there today and start helping out people in other hard hit areas, well, guess what? Somebody else will. We'll talk about that later on. But you got that going on. What's going on with the weather service here in this country? Unbelievable. I mean, the stuff that's being gutted. And I wish there was truth to to why this is all being done. And that's the thing that's really frustrating. It's like, look, you could have just said to me, it's like, I want to fuck these people because I want to take their money. I'm literally here to change the way we do business, both as a country, as a government, and how the relationship between, the federal government and its people is going to be. Just be honest with me. If that's what you want to do, just say it. But you can't, because you're used to grifting, and you're grifting. And that grifting is, it's not that it's problematic. It's like, we know you're grifting. Why don't you just say, yeah, I'm fucking you? Yes. I'm receiving this plane because I want it. Don't BS me about anything else. Yes, I want to cut back on all of this. I want to make all of these changes in the reconciliation bill, so that we can benefit those who are the people who are donating to us, to our causes. That's what they want to do. Don't bullshit me and tell me we're doing this for the American population, for the working class. Don't tell me that you're doing this for the middle class. I'm not. I got to tell you, I'm not seeing any. Under many of these Republican administrations, I've not seen these things being helpful to me. Anytime somebody says, let's do trickle down stuff, let's give back to the wealthy so they'll help out, it never works. Trickle down does not work. Does not work. Never has worked, never will work. Never will work. Trickle down does not work. And if you just said, yes, you're right, we don't believe it's fair that the rich should be paying as much as they're paying. They should be paying less amount of money because we believe that's right. Yes, and I know that we're wealthy, but we believe it. Fine. Then at least you're being honest with us. But the American people, and especially in this in this day and age, I think are starting to see they're being grifted. The unfortunate thing is, as I said at the very beginning, is if they don't catch it now, and if they decide, okay, you know what, these people are doing right by me, yes, I believe that they're actually got my best interests at heart, and we're going to find out, because at some point you're going to lose your Medicaid, you're going to lose your Medicare, and that's the other thing. Well, there's a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse in the Medicaid system. Okay, prove it. Where? Because everything I've ever read in terms of reports has always been that is there? Sure. Everything has waste, fraud, and abuse. Abuse is okay. No, it's not okay. But you know what I'm saying? Abuse is one thing. Waste is another. Fraud is defrauding. That's legal. So you got that going on. But there can always be stuff cut back. But if you're going to tell me that you're going to cut back that amount of money off of Medicaid, Medicare, and people are still going to have their benefits, those who deserve it are still going to have it, who gets to determine that? When did you start playing God? And that to me is sort of the most criminal thing that that these regressionists are falling into. That they're telling us that D1 17 18. They're telling us that no, this is going to help you. It's like, no, it's not going to help me, because what you're saying is how we're going to save money is because there's so much waste, that you got so many kids living in their parents' basement that aren't working. They should be out there working. This has been the common theme from the right, that everybody who is on Medicaid and Medicare and all these other government programs, everybody who's on these things is basically scamming the system. There are a lot of illegals. I'm sure that there are a few. They're not a lot. Are there people who are probably, could be working and they're not? Yeah. But the assumption is that there's so much of it that they're starting from the perspective of there's so much going on. We're going to slash all of this. And then, but they continue to tell us, but it's not going to affect those who need it. It's like you're slashing so much, you haven't done the research to say how badly this is going to affect. So they're lying. They're lying. It's not going to affect the people who really need it. We're not cutting Medicaid and Medicare benefits. Yeah, you are. You 100% are. Because your assumption is that the majority of it is waste, fraud, and abuse. If you're starting from that perspective and then you slash everything, game over. Whereas if you start from let's say a more surgical thing, okay, we're going to take the time and actually, we've had the opportunity, we just never done it because, we don't want to do it. But if you take the time and it's like, okay, let's do a forensic analysis of where that is, and you put people in place to be able to reduce the scamming, great. I'm all in. I'm all in. You want to tell me that there are people in this country illegally and they must be deported because they're illegals. Well, are they doing anything wrong? Because if they're trying to legitimately get a green card and they're going through that process, then leave them be. Have they done something wrong? Great. Before you deport them, go through the process. But as something I keep hearing about where our government is going right now, this is, I think there's cruelty, that there are people who actually are cruel. They come from a puritanical perspective of God only takes care of the good people. Who are the good people? Well, I must be a good person because I'm doing well. I'm in a position of power, and I know what good is. And then they go around and, oh, you're poor, you're sick. Yeah, you must not be one of the chosen. You must be doing something wrong. In my opinion, the anti-Christian approach to how you deal with people. So, oops. But this is the world that we currently live in. This is why I keep coming back to, there's so much hate right now, and there really is. And I know I've mentioned this before, but I feel like it needs to be repeated often. We come from a perspective of hating the other. That person came into this country illegally. They should have done things the right way. Well, instead of looking at it from why did they come here? What's going on? And are they, can we find a legit way of having them stay here? Legit, But many people come from the perspective of hate. There's so much waste, fraud, and abuse. Get rid of it all, and then we'll figure it out. No, then you're coming from the perspective of the negative. You instantaneously believe and see that there's waste, fraud, and abuse. As opposed to there's probably a lot of good here, but let's legitimately find where the bad stuff is. Let's see where the bad stuff is, but that's not how things are done. Like I said, it's let's do the punitive thing. You know, you're a working person. You can go out there and get a job. You shouldn't be getting these benefits for free. You're getting kicked off. You shouldn't be in this country because you came in through legitimate means, illegitimate means. We don't want you anymore. You know. And that to me is, again, goes fundamentally against everything I was brought up to believe. And in particular, you know, my faith. And I've always talked about my faith. You know, it's all, I should say always. Talk about my faith on this 7 p.m. thing, which is, yes, I know it's not 7 p.m. right now. I know. Anyway. Like I said, I will always err on the side of, you know, on the side of let's see if this person has, let's give them the benefit of the doubt, kind of like the way our whole justice system has originally been set up, which is, you know, innocent until proven guilty, that you're doing right until you're found to be doing wrong. Let's start with that perspective. But that's not how we do things anymore. Like I said, now it's the venomous vindictiveness. Part of that, I think, is powered by two different factions within our current form of government. The first one is, you know, I think that you have a hate-filled grifter who is our president. And I think that's what he is. I think he's just somebody there. He's just a con, a big fucking con. And he's there to do nothing more than to exact his revenge at the cost of everything. Constitution, fuck it. Americans, screw them. People who voted for me, F you. As long as it's what he wants. So you got that going on. And then you have what I call the smart group. And by smart, I don't mean them in a good way. They're dangerous. I think the Project 2025 Heritage Foundation people, in my opinion, are absolutely looking to destroy, you know, the Constitution as we know it. Absolutely, without a doubt. Destroy it. You know. They have no care whatsoever as long as it keeps them in power. And their ideas and philosophies are the ones that are in power. You know, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe these guys were also bullied as kids, and they figured, you know what, it's time for me to take my vengeance out on everybody. In particular, minority groups, the poor, the disadvantaged. Which I don't understand. Yeah, you know, it's, and I keep saying that, it's like, I don't understand. And I don't, because again, this is not how I've talked about this quite often. I never grew up that way. I did not grow up with the, well, I'm better than you. I take it back. there were some things that I think my parents taught us incorrectly, but their core message had always been, particularly when it came to the disadvantaged, had always been, you do right by people. You do right by those who have less. You don't go out of your way looking for reasons why not to help them. I guess some people just grew up in a very hate-filled environment. It's the only thing I can think of. You were bullied or something happened to you that allowed you to put yourself into that position, to have that kind of hatred and loathing. Yes, 3 of these done. I'm going to do one leg at a time. They say do, both feet. And I'm not going to do that. One leg at a time, one foots at a time. Sorry, I was trying to figure out 2. Okay, I can do that. So, it doesn't look like, I know that today is an early day. I'm doing this at 3 p.m. and not 7, which is normally when I do it, but got a graduation ceremony to go to and dinner after that. So, yep, today's not the day I'll be able to do this at night, but I still wanted to get this off my chest. And whether somebody's tuning in, maybe they'll listen to it later, maybe not. But as I've said multiple times, I'm doing this as a way of being able to keep my sanity, because it is so crushing to see this amount of hatred, and I need to speak. Got to speak. We all have to kind of like vocalize a little bit of what's going on here, and I'm not sure if it's going to impact everybody the same, but I do feel very much that everybody's going to be impacted by this lunacy. You may not be impacted yet, and you may think that things are going well, but you're going to be impacted by it. You're going to be impacted. Two quick examples of that. Let's use the Cuban and Haitian Venezuelans that are now basically, get rid of them. Cubans, the group of people who've been like so remarkably pro Republican Party for so many years because, the anti-communist thing. And now suddenly that's the group that we want to get rid of. Thank you for your support. Now get the fuck out of here. So you got that. And then to see what's going on with like changing the names of ships, honestly, first of all, I remember when I heard I think it's a destroyer, the Harvey Milk. I'm thinking, oh, okay, so they named it after the San Francisco mayor, and who I did not know was actually a Navy, he's Navy personnel. He's former Navy. So because he was gay, actively so, died because of his fighting for a cause that he believed in, which is antithetical to the current regime, because we can't have anybody who's gay, person of color, or a woman. If you're not a white Christian gun-toting man, the military doesn't see value in you. Not one bit of value. And that is, again, that's hurtful, you know. But this is the kind of destruction that this regime that we're living under is doing. It is causing this kind of destruction. They don't care. They don't care that, that gay people, black people, women, other minorities have been part of the our military legacy, our foundational legacy in this country. It doesn't fit their white, Christian, male-oriented nationalist agenda. And by the way, yes, I will say it, the current regime is racist. You can't have it any other way. It has to be. You cannot look at what's going on with the Department of Defense, with the removal of Cubans, Haitians, Venezuelans from this country, and allowing white South Africaners, Afrikaners, into this country. Or if you remember the Trump gold card, if you have enough money, you can buy citizenship. But those who maybe not deserve it, but maybe fighting for their lives if they don't have it, and don't have the financial wherewithal, fuck them. And that's the attitude that we have now. So we have two groups. One is, like I said, a hateful person, a person who's exacting vengeance on the general population, his enemies, and at the expense of everyone else. And you have a group that is remarkably power hungry for a white Christian or white nationalist, mostly Christian, group of people. Envision what's going on in The Handmaid's Tale. That's kind of what they're looking to create. The only downside to it is, and maybe we'll start wrapping it up right now, since I'm not sure anybody else is going to be able to pop in, which is fine. Like I said, I need to just get this off my chest once a week. Got to get this off my chest, so I'm not going to be doing this during the 6 a.m. thing. The downside to all of this is that I don't believe the leadership from the president through the Congress, and to some degree even the Supreme Court, understands the level of destruction that this is going to do to our country. Because here's the thing: at some point, he's going to get voted out. The clown, the chuckle fucks that are in there now are going to get voted out. They'll be replaced. But by then, the damage will have been done. So when you basically say, we're going to tariff the piss out of the entire world, and countries like China say, we're not going to tariff you. Let's do business. And European Union says, yeah, let's do business. Okay. When you have, you're basically saying, we don't want foreign students in this country. Don't want them. Get the fuck out of here. When we say that, other countries are going to say, no problem. We'll take you in. We'll put you into some of the best schools in our countries. When you say to these college students and graduate students and others, get the fuck out. We don't want you in this country. You're turning away a group of people who have been remarkably entrepreneurial, many of whom stay in this country and help foster businesses in this country. And those businesses are not going to come here. In fact, what you're going to end up seeing is the businesses that are here at some point are going to say, this is not going to work for our business. We will relocate. And you've got countries like China, you've got the European Union, you've got a whole host of other places that are saying, Japan, who are saying, we'll take you. Sure. You want to bring that brain trust to us? Absolutely. You want to bring your cancer research, your green technology research. You want to bring it to us. We'll set you up. The thing is, this country, U.S., has allowed for some of this to happen for so long. We've allowed for all of these people to come here. We've built up a brand that was so well revered and desired, and now that brand is tarnished. So this regime goes, another more moderate regime comes in, administration comes in, and people are still going to be, we don't trust you. Because what's going to happen in another 4 years? Will we go back the other way? So the damage is done. I'm not going to say I take any joy in it. I don't. However, I do think if there's one thing I do appreciate about this moment is I'm hoping it creates a level of something that I think our country has been missing for a long time, particularly with an angry regressionist group of people. And that is, I hope it brings back humility. Humility. You know, bringing back an idea of we are humble, we are part of the world. We're not lording it over everybody. That we're not that group of people that, basically we sound like you all envy us, you all want to be like us, you want to do business here, bend over, and that's how it's going to be. And I think that because we're creating all of these problems, I think we will suffer for it, and hopefully in time we'll recover from it. I think it's going to have, like I said, a very long-term damaging effect on what we do here in our country. I know, if I will tell you, I mean, using this the abused wife example, you come home one moment, you're getting smacked up the head because you didn't have dinner ready. You disappear, you come back, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that, I love you, you're the best thing, and you get doted on. You go away, you come back, you get smacked. You go away, you come back, you're loved. You go away, you come back, you're smacked. You do that after enough times, even if you genuinely believe, and after a few times, maybe some of that smacking goes away and there's more of the love. But you've already been conditioned to understand that might change and I will be hurt again. And I think given the extremity of what we see, we either go from a fairly moderate government, not leftist, not communist. We don't, whatever these regressionists like to believe. We go from that to an extreme regressionist or group like what we have now. And let's say it's not the current president. Let's say it's another guy who's very similar to this guy, or those ideas still continue to live on in another group of people or in the next generation. We know that they're out there. We know that this is a well-structured, well-organized group of people who hate the positiveness of our country, hate it. That will continue on for a long time. So if you're the president of another country, if you are the leader of a consortium of countries, and you're sitting there every 4 years and saying, what are we going to get next? At some point, you might say, we're just not going to trouble ourselves with this. And I think we're at that point. We had this 2016, we saw the transition happening, getting slapped around, other countries getting slapped around. Oh, nope, everything is back to normal when Biden came in, and now they're getting smacked around again in even worse fashion by the current regime. And I think you're going to have people who are just like, yeah, I'm going to take a pass, hard pass. Thank you. By the way, China, yeah, you seem to be a lot more stable. Yeah, European Union, you seem to be pretty stable. Hey, Australia. Hey, Japan. Hey, Southeast Asia, hey, Australia, all these places, right? All of them are going to Canada, and then we're going to be left out of all of this. We're going to be left out of the intelligence, this destruction that we're levying on our public institutions, on our educational institutions like Harvard, all of that stuff. It'll come back and bite us. And like I said earlier, I'm not gloating over this. I'm hoping that this will introduce some humility, and at some point we will never return to something like that. I'm not optimistic about that. I am optimistic that our country will improve. May not be in my lifetime. And I don't expect that we will recover quickly, given the damage that's happened with these two very difficult regimes that Trump had. I just don't see that we're going to be able to recover from it. So, like I said, not in my lifetime. All right. So, been on for about 40 minutes. I've had people popping in and out, but it doesn't seem like we're going to have any dialogue today. And I understand, like I said, I understand that this was 4 hours earlier than I would normally do it. So I'm hoping that maybe somebody will watch this later, maybe, and maybe they'll look at it and just say, hey, this is good food for thought. Or maybe they'll just be like, yeah, George is full of shit. Here's the thing. In the end, I needed to get this across. I'm not going to beat anybody up. I'm not going to say you have to believe in what I believe. I hope that the only thing I hope is that you close your eyes and you open them up and you look with a fresh set of eyes and see what's actually going on here. And instead of saying, yeah, but they're not any better or worse than the clowns who were here before. It's like, you got to stop that. There's a level of destruction that's here, and hopefully you'll see that. You'll open it up and just say, okay, I'm seeing what's going on here. And then the question is up to you. So what's the next step after that? So everybody's got their way of kind of dealing with this. Me personally, I do this on Thursdays. I have this conversation with people here on Thursday, and I will also sneak in a few comments in during the day on the 6 a.m. live stream. But I genuinely hope that we will all start to wake up from this nightmare and start realizing where we are and start looking at how to make things better, not worse. So, and I'll leave it with this because I leave it this way every morning. Every morning. This world's getting bad. It's getting terrible. We're in a very vicious place. It's up to us individually to try to help out the other. Help out that person that needs our help. Whatever that help might be. Don't treat them like garbage. Don't beat them up. Don't vilify them. Don't dehumanize them. Do good by people in the best way you possibly can. Show love. Okay? So with that, I'll be back on tomorrow morning, my usual 6 a.m. thing. And I'll be doing this again next week, in theory, at the usual time at 7 p.m. But in the meantime, go out there, do good, love everyone, and I will catch you on the flip. Peace.